Everyone I know who watched the, Durov arrest this weekend, first thought, oh man, who's next? Do you think that the blob you so vividly describe can tolerate Elon Musk allowing the world's population to say what it thinks through the election and beyond? And what implications does this arrest have for him?
Well, it's a complicated issue because Elon is very unique. I wrote about this when he announced the acquisition before it even closed. I wrote an article where I described how Elon is actually quite unique in this relative to other billionaire owners of social media companies who folded to pressure. And I cited a few reasons. One is, again, the strategy on this, apart from prosecutions, is whole of society contortion of the economics. So what you do is, to get Facebook to do what you want, you offer carrots and you threaten sticks. So if you do what we want, you'll get bribed, you'll get rewarded. If you don't do what we want, we'll bankrupt you. And so they fastidiously organize the whole of society so that pressure is applied from the private sector. So advertiser boycotts. USAID has a formal disinformation program focused on getting advertisers to cut off revenue to misinformation sites and purveyors of misinformation. And I have seen, they have this formally published. In fact, my organization, Foundation for Freedom Online, even published the formal disinformation primer in February 2021, 1 month after Biden took office, where in a 97-page USAID disinformation program memo, 31 times they mentioned the word advertisers as being necessary to kill the revenue to any social media site or any social media account or any independent web page that spreads misinformation. So USAID is contorting the economics of the entire news industry in order to get platforms to censor lest they go economically bankrupt. And remember, this is the major threat to Elon still to this day, but particularly these advertiser boycotts, which crushed the ability. This is why they had to turn to subscriptions and they had to make this $8 a month, $12 a month type thing because of all the ad boycotts. And again, USAID is a formal program to coordinate that in a whole of society fashion. Getting back to Elon's uniqueness. So for a couple of things, as a triple-digit billionaire, he may be more insulated from these kinds of whole of society encirclement economic pressure tactics that someone like Mark Zuckerberg or Jack Dorsey had tolerance for. They were only double-digit billionaires. Or Zuckerberg. Whereas as a triple-digit billionaire, that actually may be robust enough to resist that. Getting back to this Mark Zuckerberg letter, in 2019, Mark Zuckerberg was making public speeches saying that he thought censorship had gone too far on Facebook. That was 2019.
I remember.
But then he got hit with a very interesting boycott that was called #ChangeTheTerms. And it basically was economically coercing Facebook to change the terms of its terms of service, effectively to ban Trump supporters and Brexit supporters and anyone in Europe who was supporting a right-wing populist party there. And Facebook lost $60 billion in market cap in 48 hours under this boycott. And so Facebook folded like a lawn chair and gave them everything they asked for because $60 billion was enough to break Zuckerberg's back. At the same time, there's
who paid for Change the Terms?
Oh, that's how many hours do you have?
How about 60 seconds? Just bottom line it for us.
I mean, nominally, it was the ADL and color of change under this kind of hate speech idea, but it was joined by dozens of USAID-funded, U.S. State Department-funded NGOs, civil society institutions who were all creating the base of that. So nominally you had these, ADL color of change, and it's about hate speech on social media. But the buffering substructure for it were all these U.S. government intermediaries. And you have this issue where, what they said was hate speech, but they, as part of the Change the Terms campaign, anyone who criticized open borders was considered to be doing, hate speech against Hispanics because of, the disproportionate impact on that. Anybody in, Germany or France or anyone who, anyone who was a part of this pro-right-wing populist NATO skeptical faction, again, this whole Frexit, Brexit, Spexit, Italexit domino, that all started because of the migrant crisis. After we assassinated Gaddafi,
right.
and there was a giant, influx of migrants, into European countries, and this gave rise to a right-wing populist political opposition force, and they were the ones who were challenging all the NATO preferred political candidates in those regions. And so this was a proxy attack on all of the political enemies of the blob. But Elon is unique because the U.S. State Department needs Elon, or at least they need Elon's properties. You have a Pavel problem here, which is that they don't care about Pavel. They care about Telegram. But to break into Telegram, to get access to the back end, to be able to censor, the sort of front facing
and spy,
right? You need control of the personnel, because the policies of the platforms are personnel is policy. With Elon, I don't think they want to take him out. What they want is corporate regime change or him to play ball. And I think they allowed the acquisition because they assumed that he would play ball, as everybody else who opposed them in the past did. Jack Dorsey came out and said that it was a business decision, why they censored Trump, and that he was squeamish about it. But, they were under the gun of the financial pressure. That was the reason Mark Zuckerberg did all the censorship.
Dorsey, I can say with some authority, I think really hated censoring Trump, not because he loves Trump, because I think Dorsey really was opposed to censorship, like on a philosophical level.
Right. So I think they thought, Elon's talking a big game now, but they all did. And everyone folded, and he'll be just like the rest of them because he has a wide surface of attack, as well. Elon has Tesla. Elon has SpaceX. These are critical companies for U.S. statecraft. So, the U.S. Pentagon, Intelligence Services, State Department is hugely dependent on SpaceX for all low Earth satellites, for all telecommunications. I was at the State Department
rescuing stranded astronauts.
Yes,
actually,
that too. Yes, no, yep. And Tesla is hugely important to have a U.S. national champion in the green energy revolution. The renewable battery technology is, a huge part of the U.S. leadership in the climate change transition. One of the reasons that they viewed him as a huge hero up until he became a free speech advocate. And so, I don't think I can say it any better than one of the writers from the National Endowment for Democracy, the very CIA cutout that we've talked about, dozens of times now in this dialogue, which is that one of the writers from the National Endowment for Democracy wrote just a few months ago that Elon Musk is a greater national security threat to the United States than Russia. This is a few months ago, this is post outbreak of the war. This is in 2024, and that Elon is a greater threat to the United States and U.S. national security than Russia, because his proximal impact on U.S. politics and allowing opposition political movements to rise will cause changes in U.S. government that are more likely to make us lose the war on Russia than Russia itself. It's the same thing NATO said in 2017. He said, though, we're in a pickle because the U.S. government is so dependent on Elon's properties. And so, basically called for a kind of death by 1,000 paper cuts type strategy. And this is what we're seeing.
And wrote this in public?
Yes. You can look it up. This is this is national. I believe the author of it was a man named Dean Jackson, is a current or former National Endowment for Democracy fellow. He's a part of this whole censorship industry apparatus that I've talked about that is done through the Whole Society Network. And I can actually post the article on my X account if folks are interested right after this. But yes, arguing that again, but the National Endowment for Democracy gets its funding by the U.S. government. It is not only it is accountable to Congress.
But imagine a more anti-American belief than American citizens shouldn't be allowed to talk. American citizens shouldn't be allowed to vote, or their votes shouldn't be allowed to count. The American citizens shouldn't be allowed to choose their own leaders. I mean, imagine thinking something like that and imagining that you're an American.
Right. But understand, as soon as you accept the frame that democracy is about the institutions.
I know, but wake the fuck up, these people. I mean, come on. I mean, like, I get it. I understand. I used to drink too much. I'm very familiar with, ways that we justify unjustifiable behavior to ourselves. But on some level, like, are you ever standing in the shower thinking, wait, in the name of democracy, I'm preventing my fellow Americans from giving their opinions out loud, or I don't think their vote should count. Like, is there they have no souls, obviously.
Right.
I'm sorry to get upset.
No.
It's just like so crazy.
Well, the reason that I keep coming back to that is because I'm trying to arm everybody watching this with the language necessary to fight it.
Well, and you're spinning me into a frenzy, as you always do. I'm sorry. So let me just ask you one last question, okay? Once again, do you think that X will stay open through the election?
Stay open in the U.S., yes. But the State Department is coercing foreign governments to shut down X operations around the world until X censors everyone the State Department wants censored. Take the EU Digital Services Act, which I've been screaming for years now, is the number one existential threat to Elon and to X. This is a law. This new just came into effect in the EU after years of pressure from NATO for the EU to advance this, which goes beyond the typical European hate speech laws and creates a new sort of category for disinformation, which requires all social media platforms to do disinformation compliance. And the U.S. censorship industry, they did a conference. There was a big 150-page sort of consensus memo that hundreds of these people all sort of co-signed, and then they did a launch event where they all talked about it on a live stream afterwards. And in that live stream, they said that they would be in a full-blown panic because of Elon Musk losing X and Elon's policies, getting rid of all the censorship provisions they had, because 2024 has more elections than any year in world history.
Thanks for watching our YouTube channel. We hope you'll subscribe to it. And by the way, you can hit the little bell on there and get notifications every time we produce a video. We hope you'll do that also.